We're now talking about counseling theories. Today, we start by asking ourselves, what is the importance of counseling today? Now, that is a simplistic question, as you may think, but not simple, because we want to address cutting-edge issues facing the society and warranting or calling for counseling itself. Why should you waste money studying counseling psychology? So we say that with so many cases of broken marriages, in America we used to say 50% of all marriages taking place, they get broken. They don't go to the very end, according to statistics that were done 10, 20 years or 30 years ago. You never know whether now it is 70%. I don't have the figures. We have to check later. Now, if there are so many broken marriages, particularly those people who like to criticize so much, where there's too much democracy, where we don't know how, sorry to say, to flatter one another. We just know how to criticize. You dress poorly, you talk poorly, your people are not good. All those really, they don't hold families. They die if we are not strong enough to accommodate people with their weaknesses. If we are just good at pointing out the weakness of other people, the shortcoming of other people, definitely these breakages, even crashes in job, where we are working with people, where we are carrying out our jobs, where we are employed or really employing people, workers will keep running away and leaving the job because we don't know how to, we have not learned the discipline of persevering or not rushing to comment on negative things, or sometimes being what I would call over democratic, or talking anything that comes to your mind, what you see. You have seen those people, men and women, who like to see comment on other people's weakness. They are very good at that. They don't fare very well in life, unfortunately. So we need counseling because we have so many people who do not know how to be relativistic. Yeah, social relativistic. I should use my own jargon. I don't want to get back to cultural relativism because somebody may ask, where is culture here? But because of broken relationship, we need counseling today. Because of broken economies, we need counseling to know if Kenya is the 6th largest country economically in Africa with $99 billion as GDP. My friend, that's a very big economy. But why are we so broke? We are even retrenching people. As you did, you are planning to retrench workers. That's what we are hearing. Now, if the country is that big, the economy is that big, and people are complaining they are broke, who is keeping the money? There must be a cartel keeping that money, or the wealth of the nation being held by one man, 2 men, 3 men, or what J.M. Kariuki talked about, a nation of 10 billionaires and 10 billion beggars, 10 million beggars. That's tragedy. That's horrible. You can't understand how an economy that is $99 billion GDP really eclipsing Tanzania with 62, with all the minerals we hear. Tanzania has been discovered to be the richest country in terms of mineral deposits. Even Ethiopia, I saw it in the web, I was surprised in the recent statistic. Kenya is that big, but people are crying. So they need counseling. Yes, counseling will be needed a lot. As you retrench. We need counseling. And counseling is not for politicians. It's not for church leaders. It's not for social scientists. It's for everybody. Everybody needs counseling. In fact, we need to start with it in life to know how to treat our siblings, our brothers and sisters, with a sense of understanding, ability to listen rather than talking, ability to give them a chance. We need to give to counsel even the people we stay with by first listening to them, empathizing. Empathizing is not sympathizing, but showing you are listening to them. Okay, I hear you. You may not necessarily act, but they should be able to see you are empathizing. Yes, unawaelewa. So counseling is a relevant study as Kenya aims at Vision 2030, the so-called Agenda 4, and as the world grapples with the Sustainable Development Goals. Now that we are past Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, we are now in SDGs. Globally, the UN, the United Nations, are telling us to focus on Sustainable Development Goals. We are in the Millennium Development Goals. Kenya was able to live up to the expectation of the United Nations when Kibaki in January 2003 declared one of the 8 goals implemented immediately. He commanded that the Minister of Education implement free education for everyone, every primary school going, that all nations should offer free education. That is one of the 8 millennium goals for the UN. Now we have another one, more advanced. I don't know how to get into SDGs because I'll need another time to do that. Now, but if we don't have well-counseled nation, we will not go far. Now, remember the times of Jomo Kenyatta. Remember the times of President Moi. There were 2 good things about the 2 presidents. That the radio itself was counseling people through the radio. Patriotic messages that counseled the nation. It was good. They used music, but after the handing over from Moi to Kibaki Uhuru, we've not heard the radios playing patriotic songs to counsel the nation, to bring the people together. That is forgotten. They do not seem to see the seriousness of it. Songs in Africa, in particular, as Professor Boranji Idowu once noted, songs are everything. That we express our joys in Africa through songs. Our fears, our hopes, our pains, our everything. Songs have a power. They are strong outlets, and they have power in counseling. In counseling, you cannot, in African forms of counseling, you cannot say songs are not needed. You need them. Yes, my friend, they are the glues that joins people together. They are, they are the soap that and the oil that makes smoothens things. And you cannot keep singing and songs and drama and music far from us. You cannot just fix economics and say, it's okay, we built you roads, but we don't have a society. You have not humanized us through songs. When you listen to a song sung one day during Moi's time, you hear, anayependa Kenya ni yule mwenye kupenda haki kwa watu wote daima. He who loves Kenya is one who respects other people's rights, regardless of their ethnic or ratio or whatever it is, whatever the background. He who loves justice for every other person is the one who loves the country. You may not see counseling in that song, but I tell you, there is a lot of it. It may not be the formal counseling, but there is informal counseling in the song. And counseling offers a safe and confidential environment for an injured counselee to speak in. We call them clients to speak in. And it is in itself a form of hearing. You start hearing. Although counselors may not give the counselee, or the one we are calling the client, the concrete advice or checklist of things to do so as to feel better, what they will do is to help the person uncover his or her insight and understanding of his or her own problems by providing the tools that will help the person to resolve them, on his or her own. Now, in most cases, a single session will not be enough to help overcome any issues that one is facing. Counseling is a journey, and it takes time and consistency to work effectively. Because of this, most people opt for regular counseling sessions so as to make the most of the process. Now, counseling can help a person to understand himself or herself better, including the way one thinks. That is what we call perceptions, how you perceive things, which will ultimately help the counselee or the client to develop a clearer understanding of his or her problems. The person who is more armed with information has an easier way of gradual navigation of going through the difficulties that one is facing. And this will help the counselee or the client to come out feeling more positive. Further, counseling can also help a person to better understand other people's point of view. That is empathizing, which can shed light onto the way one interprets wants or actions. Concerning counseling and psychotherapy, let me say that both psychotherapy and counseling are terms that are used to describe the same process. Both terms, that is, counseling and psychotherapy, relate to overcoming personal difficulties and working towards positive changes. So counseling is a helping approach that highlights the emotional and intellectual experience of a client, how a client is feeling and what they think about the problem they have sought help for. Now, psychotherapy, however, is based in the psychodynamic approach. And psychodynamic approach includes all the theories in psychology that see human functioning based upon the interaction of drives and forces within the person, particularly unconscious, and between the different structures of the personality. Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis is both a theory and a therapy. Psychodynamic theory, also known as psychoanalytic psychotherapy, helps clients understand their emotions and unconscious patterns of behavior. By talking through these emotions and behaviors with a social worker, clients come to know themselves better and make better decisions for themselves. So I was saying that psychotherapy is based in psychodynamic approach to counseling, and it encourages the client to go back to their earlier experiences and explore how these experiences affect their current problem. A psychotherapist, therefore, helps the client to become conscious of experiences which they were previously unaware of. However, they are previously unaware of counselors. However, are less likely to be concerned with the past experiences of the clients and are generally trained in a humanistic approach, using techniques from client-centered therapy. If no questions, we just go on and clear this part so that next time we just talk about the specific theories in counseling, very specific. Some of them already tackled or mentioned but we look at one by one next week. So, types of therapies and counseling. Methodology and or approaches. Methodology and or approaches in counseling is broad. In other words, the type of therapy used will be determined by the counselor's preferences. In turn, the counselor's decision will be informed by the issues a person would be facing, and indeed what type of a person he or she is. As a skillful counselor will employ the relevant and workable therapy after she gets to know more about the person being counseled, the problems she faces, and the way she thinks. Nevertheless, the types of therapies will include the following that I will talk about. That is behavioral therapy, art therapy, psychoanalysis, humanistic therapies, eye movement, dissemination and reprocessing, cognitive therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, all that, and the many others we may not necessarily look at. So, coming back to now these types of therapies, they can also be theories in counseling, but we shall give you in all concrete terms so that you are more equipped than you even needed to be in this subject. So you'll be very much equipped, almost tackling, a very broad area of counseling. So behavioral therapy is a principal idea. The principal idea behind behavioral therapy is that our behavior is learned and it can be essentially be unlearned. So if it has been done, it can be undone. And this leads behavioral therapy to focus more on the present as opposed to looking back to the past. And this type of therapy is therefore best used with those looking to change their behavior, for example, sufferers of addiction or those with phobia. So it's a question of behavior. That's why it's called behavioral therapy, how you can learn it or unlearn it. So within counseling or as a therapy, you can start it from a behavioral perspective. We shall see it again when we go step by step. At least not all of these therapies or theories will be covered. We shall just pick some. We are not to pick every theory. There are so many, we can't exhaust these theories. We may cover around 6 major ones. But we have provided enough materials that will make you know beyond what we just need. There is art therapy. We're taking an alternative approach to counseling. Art therapy encourages clients to use artistic methods to communicate their issues as well as wants. This may be in the form of a painting, a sculpture, or even simple drawing. The aim of art therapy, the aim of using art, wacholanji, to counsel is to examine the resulting pieces of art and to interpret their meaning. So you can use diagrams, drawing, artistic work, sculpture, painting, simple drawing, and you communicate and make it your own therapy to treat your clients using those drawings. Of course, you require. That's why we say before you counsel, have what we call in education, in teaching, this what we call in education diagnostic assessment. When you reach the class, you want to know to tell students to introduce one another. If they are adults, you tell them, can you write your details here? Can you put your details here? What is your name? What are your other degrees that you have had? Actually, that's what people do, so that you know whom you're handling. Some could be having certain experience, you the teacher, you don't have. And so when you do diagnostic assessment, I know there are people like Kalume who are teachers by profession, and they know these things. Somatic assessment, there are quite a number. And yeah, those assessments. I want to start with, there's even Mwangi there. I know there are quite a number of trained teachers there. So that diagnostic, you get the details. The first thing is to know those people. Even I remember John Paul once saying, teach youth the Latin, but it is important not to teach necessarily to teach Latin, but to know the youth first. So when you are teaching Latin to the youth, know, according to John Paul, first, the first, not the second, the first. John Paul first said, know the youth first. Don't just teach them, know them. He was a wise man. So that is it. So even in counseling, there's that diagnostic assessment where you know the person, so that you can know this man can be dealt with. You can, start your counseling through the painting, the sculpture, the drawing, the simple drawing. By the time you draw this map, oh, you are fighting over this land, eh? Okay, you are plot goes this line, then it comes this way. By the time you draw it with him, with the man who is really disturbed by his neighbor, he realizes, kumbe, I'm the one who is provoking the neighbor. Okay, boundaries don't go like that. Okay, and you are not even a surveyor, but you are basic survey, because you are educated. You need to be informed generally. As a counselor, you don't have to be a fellow who has never heard what is mathematics, what is geography, what is history. You don't have to be so ignorant. You are not an expert, because you are just a facilitator, but you are not supposed to be too ignorant anyway, because you deal with all sorts of people. You should even have read the newspaper. You want in the newspaper, you know the news. What is trading? You know what are very critical issues now taking place. You know the current affairs. You know contemporary affairs. Current and contemporary, they are not the same. You can tell what are contemporary issues. You can tell what are current issues, the current debates on this or that. So you can see art therapy is one of the therapies in treating people with problems. There is also psychoanalysis. As a therapy, it was founded by Sigmund Freud. We'll come back to this man. You keep repeating this man. But please understand, that is our way to handle counseling. There are people who are more important than others, even if this is a very controversial figure. We noted in psychology last week. Controversial, but very important. Because what can we do without this man? He wrote a lot. He said too much. He raised a lot of psychological controversies. That now helps us to reflect as we try to get the real, the actual. So Sigmund Freud also founded psychoanalytic technique in counseling. Hence, it is one of the oldest therapies used in psychology. This man is not an ordinary man. He even taught his friend, a student called Carl Jung, because at one stage Sigmund Freud became an atheist. And the student, Carl Jung, tells him, my teacher, you are wrong. There is God. And religion is not a neurosis. Religion is real. So they differ. They are all psychologists. One is a believer and the other one is not. But their common denominator is that both are psychologists. And they have schools and theories. Even in counseling, we find they have their own theories they are in. You can't tell when it is a psychological, you can tell when it's a psychological theory and when it is a counseling psychology theory. But we have him in this lesson. Now, the therapy takes a different approach. The psychoanalysis as a therapy takes a different approach to behavioral and cognitive therapies, as it perceives our thoughts to be out of our conscious control. See, that controversy that our thoughts are out of our conscious control. Sometimes we cannot control our own minds, our own thinking, and that's another controversy. Why not? Why are we not in control? Instead, psychoanalysis believes that any psychological issues stem from childhood and needs to be addressed in order to be resolved. You see, it takes us to psychological background, that if we have to understand people, we go back to their upbringing. How did they journey with the vicissitudes of life? Alipambana vipi na pilka pilka za maisha yake kutoka utotoni mpaka leo? That is Sigmund Freud with the psychoanalysis. Some people may not agree with him. That's why there are many theories in counseling. So it is a wearer of the shoe who knows where it pinches. So says the English saying. So for us, when we are doing diagnostic assessment which is in education but is also in counseling psychology, you know the people first. That's when you know which kind of therapy somebody needs. Does he need humanistic therapy? Let's look at it. Does he need behavioral therapy? Does he need art therapy? Does he need psychoanalysis therapy? Does he need behavioral therapy? Inajileta anapoongea na wewe msikize. If you don't listen, you not know the kind of medicine to administer to. If you are a medical doctor, you don't know the dose to give. Is it malaria? Anaweza kuambie mgongo wa uma pande hii, the aching is on this side, it comes at night or during the day, the allergies of this make. You not know what kind of medication to administer that person unless and until you listen to that person. So humanistic therapy or therapies. This is a holistic style of counseling that looks at factors such as free will, creativity, and human potential. The therapy type encourages self-exploration with many varieties focusing on the here and now. Therapies that fall under this umbrella include human grievance therapy, person-centered therapy, and Gestalt therapy. Some will be considered, but get the main point that it is a holistic style. A holistic means it's a counseling model that is broad and is able to relate, to build itself. It reaches out to other styles. It considers the factors such as, it is humanistic. In Utu is a therapy of counseling that has humanness. Utu, Ubuntu. In Zulu they call it Ubuntu or Utu or Mundo. If it has Utu or it's humanistic or it's humane, it will employ creativity accordingly. It will also look at the human potential as the situation demands. And it also encourages, and it's a good one, self-exploration, kujijua, to self-examine oneself. Okay, all that. The other one is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. The therapy involves recalling the distressing event or feeling while following the therapist's finger as it moves from side to side. So those mannerisms, the body reactions, the use of hands, the movement of fingers and all that, the eye movements, you see some people look this and that other way. The aim is to reduce the intensity of these memories over time. In other words, in a nutshell, EMDR is typically used to treat issues that originated from trauma. See, sometimes you may find the man almost screaming when talking to you, or raising his eyes in a very threatening way when he recalls where he was in Arabic country, where he was put as a slave in a certain place in Saudi Arabia or wherever. We hear them saying what they were told. I don't know to clean what, I don't know, things that are, they are hard to believe. So you'll be watching this man. Some can create stories, some may not be factual. Some may want to even to test you, all those. Though it is starting to be used more widely for issues such as depression and anxiety. And a depressed person may be remembering, he beat me, he hurt me. The man who was the first man in Kenya to be openly to be beaten by his wife, Keguta, in Madera, Nyeri. You could see how he was saying how the woman cut him. This woman from Mothers Union, not Mothers Union, the PCA there, Women Guild. He cut this man who was always coming home drunk. As he was talking, after he recovered, came out, and you could see via TV, via television, how the man was really feeling depressed. How could Juliana do me this? That's Keguta now talking. And of course, you take this person by observing what is his behavioral characteristics, particularly the finger as it moves from one side to the other, the eye, all the reactions that he's making, they will aid how you view this person. There is also now cognitive, as we move on to completion, on these therapies in counseling, or theories, types of counseling rather, not necessarily theories, but we are talking of therapies or types of counseling. When we get to this cognitive, the way we think, cognitive, is about thinking, cognitive, thinking, the cognitive aspect. The way we think often leads to changes in our behavior. And cognitive therapy looks to reconcile issues where they begin in our thoughts. Okay? So as a cognitive therapist or counselor, where you appeal to thinking, you try to reconcile issues where they began. You trace by thinking through with this person, where did the rain start beating us? To use Chinua Achembe's once, where did the rain start beating this man, this woman? So by following it up, you journey with this person, cognitively thinking through. You are thinking, it has to be deep thinking. And at the end of it all, the solutions will be found when you go cognitively. The therapy looks to address any skewed ways of thinking that may be obliterated, that may be hidden. Somebody may try to hide something. You are able to unveil it, to go underneath and get it through thinking. And how do you push somebody to speak out? It is asking reading questions, not judgmental questions. Question that where particularly there's what we were calling dog counseling, where you become tough, rough counseling, and you go dog counseling. The person is denying. So you may find yourself, somebody even trying to be rough. Sometimes you may raise also the bar and tell him, oh, I know you did it, you are this. You may try to be a bit tough but not the best way in counseling. It doesn't help much, but sometimes it may force you to go that far. But in the so-called cat counseling, you find somebody being slippery, trying to skew things, to put them in certain way, and not really wanting to get solution as such. So the hindrance can be him or her. And that is where you employ cognitive therapy by leading changes in behavior through pushing this person to think through, and you make the person think through, and that can be done. So the last one for this is, for these therapies, is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT looks to combine both cognitive therapy and behavioral therapy in order to tackle the thought process and the resulting behavior. Focusing on the present, cognitive behavioral therapy is a practical therapy that aims to break down problems into smaller, more manageable issues. Okay? And this therapy is especially useful for those with more specific problems, as it addresses each emotion separately. So knowing how to isolate issues in what we call cognitive behavioral therapy is wonderful. Because if you combine all issues together, you want to solve them all together. There could be so many issues. Tackle one. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay, did you do this? Okay, what did you think about that? You tackle one issue. You facilitate this fellow to major on one. And then after that one is, left to a place where you can say it is done. I've made him to get answers. Get to the other one, and then go on and see whether it relates with the other one. After all, this is cognitive thinking. It's all about thinking through issues, and it will come out. If there are no questions, we are moving towards the conclusion. I can see we have 17 minutes. We need to be done before that time. We move towards the conclusion of today's lesson. Okay. We may tackle counseling theories in abstract way, in summary, but hence we could have completed the whole lecture. But of course, next week we shall tackle one by one and be experts in one by one. We may not cover all of them, even if they are there in your materials, but they are there for you to read. Not necessarily we cover everything. It's a question for you to have enough. So if there are no comments, I move on towards the completion of today's lecture in the next 15 minutes. So what is counseling psychology? We are taking you there again. It is a psychological specialty, or is an area you specialize on within counseling itself, that encompasses research and applied work in several broad domains. That is counseling process and outcome, supervision and training, career development and counseling, and prevention and health. It can also be defined as a specialty within professional psychology that maintains a focus on facilitating personal and interpersonal functioning across the lifespan. The specialty pays particular attention to emotional, social, vocational, educational, health-related, developmental, and organizational concerns. Now, some theoretical categories of counseling theories. Let us look at them. I told you we could almost summarize the whole lecture today, the whole of it today, but this is only abstract. You get into the in-depth. At least we make math. We have to cover in-depth one by one by Freud, another one by Jung, another one by another one. At least we need to know specific counseling theories. We can talk about behavioral theory. It's like we have already done a bit of it. Behavioral counseling theories hold that people engage in problematic thinking and behavior when their environment supports it. When an environment reinforces or encourages these problems, they will continue to occur. So behavior counselors work to help clients identify the reinforcements that are supporting problematic patterns of thinking and acting and replace them with alternative reinforcement for more desirable patterns. Currently, preferred therapies based in behavior theory include behavior therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, multimodal therapy, and conjoint sex therapy. So all these are determined by the environment we are in. So if the environment calls for that type of counseling, then behavioral theory will tell you it is not, counseling is not determined by what you want, but what that environment wants. Certain people in certain areas may want certain forms of counseling. It can be even educational counseling. If people are dropping out of school, they are getting into drugs and all that, you may want to focus more. There can even be public counseling. Counseling is not necessarily when we are face to face. There can also be public counseling. There is to whom it may concern counseling. Some of it even done via television. You can hear somebody counseling the nation. You remember Kabithe, Dr. Kabithe, during the 1988 bombing, when the American embassy was bombed in Nairobi. I lost friends. Some remain injured today, people known to me. Some, even if they recovered, I'm not sure whether they are the same. People who were not even near, the terrorists bombed it. And Dr. Kabithe was invited by the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation to counsel the nation. People had lost their jobs, their wives, their husband, their father. Some became crippled. They now use wheelchair today. Some died. All these things. And you know what Dr. Kabithe told them? The environment called for to give a public counseling to the nation. And the counseling to the nation was saying, accept the new me. I was very happy to hear him saying so. Accept the new me, not the one who didn't have legs. You had legs when you went to work, but you don't have legs. You are using weekend legs. You walk via wheelchair. If you want to live, accept your new situation. Accept yourself without a husband, without a father, without a mother, without a friend, without a supportive friend or anything you lost. Accept the new me, the new situation, the new environment that you have been placed. Now start thinking now with the back to creative thinking now. Now create a new avenue. Think of a new avenue. Maneuver your new street, the new avenue for life, and you survive. But if you keep saying, when I was there, when I was what, when I was a chairman, when I was getting these allowances, my friend, you will not see the promised land. You will not get there. Other people will get there, not you, because you have not accepted yourself, your new situation, because the environment requires you to be trained. You train your mind to accept the new way. So is the environment for behavioral theory. Now, when you come to the other one, systemic theory. Systemic counseling theories, there are many anyway, but let's just call them theory as if it is singular, because we are not, you stand for yourself if you want to do deeper. You can't teach all theories in systemic or in behavioral. There could be too many for anyone to teach. You just capture the key issue. Systemic counseling theories hold that thinking, feeling, and behavior are largely shaped by pressures exerted on people by the social systems within which they live. Accordingly, individual thinking, feeling, and behavior are best understood when examined in relationship to the role they play within a person's family or other important social networks. Systemically focused systemically focused counselors work to revise social network dynamics that influence a client's undesirable thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Some currently preferred therapies drawing from systemic theory include structural family therapy, strategic family therapy, human validation process family therapy, and Gottman method couples therapy. Quite a number. There's even individual, like Gottman method couples therapy. Yeah, let me just try to break it and make it simple. Systemic theory, it is from the word system. Now, if you think of Kenya before 1963, I told you there was the Kenyan Karaba or Kenyan apartheid called Karaba, where there was, in primary school, there was funding across the races. The European-only education, like Kenya education primary, Kenya European primary education, or Kenya Asian primary education, which the Kenya Asian primary education, and Asians, the Indians, the Arabs, even the Somalis were classed as number 2, second-class citizen, or black Africans with kinky hair like you and some of us were classed as the number 3, the Kenyan African primary education. Now, when you look at the 3 forms of education, the Europeans were given more money, or more funding was allotted or allocated to the European education. Well, the Somalis, the Indians, the Arabs were allotted slightly less than Europeans, because they were seen as second class. More their IQ, their thinking capacity, their human importance was seen to be higher than those of the blacks, the black Africans living in Kenya, in the colonial Kenya. So at the end of it all, the Kenyan African education was poorly funded. You could find manned houses, you could find classes with no teachers or few teachers. That is what we call systemic injustice, where the system is to blame for inequality. Now, thinking of systemic counseling theory, it holds that thinking, feeling, and behavior are largely shaped by pressures exacted on people by the social system within which they live. So the system can provide systemic pressures or challenges that may require systemic forms of counseling. Counseling why it is the system that has issues. Yeah? The mechanism put in place. We can also have a constitution that oppresses people, puts more pressure, fails to put all people as equal Kenyans or equal people in a country. And it can also put pressure on people. So in other words, the constitutional system, it can exact pressures on the people, certain regions, if it is not well done. Let me talk about humanistic theory. I have only 4 minutes. Humanistic theory. Humanistic therapists we have talked about some of these people, if you are here. Humanistic therapists are most humanist therapists care most about the present. It cares about the present and helping their clients achieve their highest potential. Instead of energy spent on the past or on negative behaviors, humanist theory or humanist psychologists believe in the goodness of all people and emphasize a person's self-growth and self-actualization. In a nutshell, humanistic counseling theories hold that people have within themselves all the resources they need to live healthy and functional lives, and that problems occur as a result of restricted or unavailable problem-solving resources. Humanistic counselors see their role not as one of directing clients in how to address their problems, but rather as one of helping clients to discover and access within themselves the restricted resources they need to solve problems on their own. Some currently preferred humanistic counseling therapies include person-centered, existential, emotion-focused, Gestalt, and positive psychology. So you have found humanistic therapists care most about the present and helping their clients achieve their highest potential. They don't keep saying, wait. They want to settle because there is humanness, as you have noted earlier. Okay? Instead of focusing on the past or negative behaviors of the past, humanists believe in the goodness. Mui huwa mwema, a bad man can be a good man. They start on a good premise, a friendly premise, that once a thief is not always a thief. A good man, a bad guy can be a good man. Okay? They emphasize a person's self-growth and self-actualization, that you can change. Now we are going back to cognitive theory, and we come back again into it. In the 1960s, psychotherapist Aaron Beck developed cognitive theory. Of course, you hear Jean Piaget being attributed to being the founder of this. That is the issues we need to solve around as we study this unit. Now, this counseling theory focuses on how people's thinking can change feelings and behavior. Cognitive therapist focuses more on their client's present situation and distorted thinking than on their past. Again, this one, like behaviorist, can tell you you can think positively and become a better person. Thinking makes you so. William Shakespeare once said, there is nothing in this world which is either good or bad. Reason makes it so. But you see, cognitive therapists can tell you there is nothing good or bad in this world. There is nothing beyond control or beyond anything. Reason makes it so what you want it to be. So if you think it from a positive angle, that thing will go on a positive angle. If you want to take it in another angle, it will go in that angle you are leaning on. And so you may blame yourself for not thinking in a manner that will change your feelings and behavior. So cognitive and behavioral therapy are often combined as one form of theory practiced by counselors and therapists. Additionally, cognitive counseling theories hold that people experience psychological and emotional difficulties when their thinking is out of sync with reality. When this distorted or faulty thinking is applied to problem solving, the result understandably leads to faulty solutions. So cognitive counselors work to challenge their clients' faulty thinking patterns. So clients are able now to derive solutions that accurately address the problems they are experiencing. Currently, preferred cognitive theory-based therapies include cognitive behavior therapy, reality therapy, motivational interviewing, and acceptance and commitment therapy. In regard to psychoanalytic theory, psychoanalytic counseling theories hold that psychological problems result from the present-day influence of unconscious psychological drives or motivations stemming from past relationships and experiences. Dysfunctional thoughts and behavior patterns from the past have become unconscious working models that guide clients toward continued dysfunctional thought and behavior in their present lives. Psychoanalytic counselors strive to help their clients become aware of these unconscious working models so that their negative influence can be understood and addressed. Some currently preferred therapies grounded in psychoanalytic theory include psychoanalysis that we considered earlier, attachment therapy by one man, Bobby, came with attachment theory to argue you are who you are because of the person who gave you the care. The early people who took care of your childhood. You attached to what they were doing. If they were doing bad, you keep doing bad even today. Okay, another one is object relations therapy and Adlerian therapy. We don't consider all of them, but some of them. The other one, towards the end, the second from last in ending the lecture, is constructionist theory. Constructionist counseling theories, which is done by mainly educationists, where they tell you prepare the child, the student to construct his own ideas. That's when he's an educated person. Make him apply knowledge. That he is standing. If you don't know how to apply knowledge, you can't construct new ideas from what you are taught. You are not learned. And you can hear lawyers being constructionists. They're calling themselves learned friends because they are learned and not educated. So a person must not be educated. By the way, you should be actually learned. When you are learned, you apply that knowledge. You are able to apply that knowledge. If you just memorize what you studied in class, you'll be a failure in life, because life is not memorizing what you learned in school. It is to be able to construct. And constructionist theorists in counseling psychology will help you to construct new ideas and become a better person. So let me just say that constructionist counseling theories hold that knowledge is merely an invented or constructed understanding of actual events in the world. While actual events in the world can trigger people's meaning-making processes, it is those meaning-making processes, rather than the events themselves, that determine how people think, feel, and behave. Constructionist counselors work collaboratively with clients to examine and revise problematic client constructions of self, relationships, and the world. Some currently preferred constructionist theory-based therapy models include solution-focused belief therapy, narrative therapy, feminist therapy, Ericksonian therapy, and identity renegotiation counseling. The last one for today is holistic and integrative therapy. It involves integrating various elements of different theories to the practice. In addition to traditional talk therapy, holistic therapy may include non-traditional therapies, such as hypnotherapy or guided imagery. The key is to use the techniques and psychotherapy tools that are best suited for a particular client and problem. During their initial training, counselors are typically introduced to a variety of currently preferred counseling models falling under each of the 6 main theoretical categories. From there, the counselor's task is to determine, through continued training and experience, which models best fit. For example, A, their personal view of human function and change, B, their preferred style of communication, and C, the needs of the client population they are currently working with and or the client population they plan to work with in the future. Most counselors will find that some therapy models are particularly good or fit, while others may not be good or fit at all. Consequently, they are most likely to apply those models in counseling practice that fall within their comfort or competency zone and avoid those that do not. When confronted with client situations that fall outside of their zone of comfort and or competency, you as a counselor must decide between A, working to expand your comfort or competences zone to include alternative models more appropriate to your client's needs, or you may refer your client, to another counselor who is more acquainted in that area, in that environment that your diagnostic assessment showed you that this counselee whom we call client falls within, so that you don't counsel a person in an area where you feel you are inadequate and lead this person into more problems. But again, you should not fear any person who comes to you for counseling, because we agreed from the very outset that you are not there to decide for anybody. You are only a facilitator. Probing questions that you ask need to help this person solve the problem himself, herself. And so you should not be that person. Of course, the more you read these areas in counseling, the more you become an expert. Now you may feel like you are still inadequate, and that is true, because it's still very early for you. We are still pushing these units. So I was saying that if push comes to shove, you find that this man, I can't counsel him. First, he doesn't even recognize me, because the counselee or the client must recognize you, respect you, feel you are the right person. That he himself, she herself, she is the one to recognize you, rather than you thinking you are best therapist or counselor for him. You may refer that person to a more comfortable and competent in the needed alternative model. Such situation also come anyway, where you have to refer this person to another person whom you feel can handle this better due to historical, social, educational, or other reasons that could be informing the status quo. So that can also happen. But if you know who is a counselor, whom we considered as we started this course, you know you have a job well cut, and it should not be a challenge to you. It is not supposed to be hard. At the end of the day, it will be fine. I end the lecture. More questions, even.